morning. What is great, good, and real? And welcome to day 25 of the Do You Rules live experience. I am what you would call the host, affectionately referred to as Cliche Jeff, and I am feeling blessed. I hope you are feeling blessed. And we're on a 1,000 hour journey towards self improvement. Or at least I am. I don't know what you're doing, but it's Saturday morning and I'm feeling amazingly blessed. I am also feeling somewhat frustrated as my body is doesn't seem to be cooperating with me as far as health. I started to feel it yesterday. I'm feeling it a little bit more today. And I hate feeling sick. I don't think anyone likes feeling sick. I hate feeling sick mentally with my thoughts. I hate feeling sick emotionally and spiritually, and certainly when it comes out physically and the body kind of gets weak. It sucks. But it's Saturday. We reflect. I said I would be here, so I'm here. Let's do a material check. Red book, red book, red book. Where are you, my lovely red book? Who keeps all my crazy thoughts? What the fuck is wrong with me today? I don't know, but we got an F bomb going. We got the blanket. I tell you what, it's been so cold. My son even asked me, why is it so cold? It's below freezing for quite some time. That when I came back from my run yesterday, I had to go into my bed because I was so cold I could feel it like my bones were cold. Yep, it's that cold. Kirkland brand water check for hydration purposes. I've noticed that I'm drinking a lot less while I'm speaking. My stamina is building. We talked about stamina plenty of times. Chapstick, because the way my body's built, and maybe I've given myself that consciously because I think about it a lot. My lips seem to always be chapped. That hasn't gotten any better. Day 25, but that's why we prepare. What time is it? It's 4:26 a.m. OCD plug in the phone time. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's not it. All right. I'm not going to go through that. That's just going to irritate my soul and bring me drama. And a new addition for today, just for it could be just for today. I could wind up doing this every day. I don't know. I could do whatever I want. That's the beauty of having full control. This is the book I'm reading, Lives of the Stoics. Great book. Succinct. I don't know if it's because of the way we're sort of built today that everything, not everything, but a lot of the way we seem to enjoy ourselves is through really fast, really quick delivery of pleasures and whatever your pleasure is. I say all that to say I don't want to make it too long winded because I want to get into some reflection. That coming off of, and maybe it's because I also, the book I read before this, The Writings of Descartes, I was researching the top philosophy books, and that the book I just read was one of them, The Writing of the Descartes. Very heavy book as far as processing the information. I found it to be very emotional in that I wasn't expecting it to be so focused and centered around God. And anytime I'm reading something that is focused and centered around God, it heightens me because I'm very sensitive about how I believe in God and my faith in God. And because I believe it's the most important thing in my life, I'm very particular about how I allow information from others about God to infiltrate my space and my mind because I'm careful and guarded with God. But in the same way, I know that God wants me to be fully open. And so I release and try to embrace someone else's perspective and view because, in my estimation, I don't think there's any greater change and influence for change in your life than to be fully in tune with God. So if you're there and God is a priority in your life and not just on Sundays, but all the time, and that means a lot of different things. I'm not judging or saying, I'm just speaking what I'm feeling. But going from that book and consciousness. So God and consciousness, somewhat the metaphysics and the biology of life. I mean, the guy even goes into the blood flow and the connection of the brain to the entirety of the body, how it's built and designed, your spine, and how it's sort of like there's a lot of, it's very deep. I find it deep. And maybe I'm shallow. Maybe what's deep to me, you might read and say, dude, you're kind of dense. Whatever. That's me. But it was really an experience. And I found myself, a lot of times I find myself having this introspection quite regularly because I think it's important and it's positive and healthy. We're talking about Saturday, it's reflection day. I find myself trying to reflect as often as possible when the moment calls for it because I don't want to lose things. And sometimes I can read things that cause constant reflection and assessing and evaluating, which some of it is kind of like you got to just let go and accept and appreciate. But also words are so powerful that you're just like, wow, a lot's going on. I say all that to say this book here, The Lives of the Stoics, you can see here, The Art of Living from Zeno to Marcus Aurelius. And I'm going to surmise at least because I haven't done deep, immense work and research on Stoicism. I think a lot of the principles around it are dope. I think because I'm logic based and I enjoy philosophy, that Stoicism is very appealing and attractive to me. And this book, I'd say it's if it's looking at the lives of all the Stoics, maybe 15 to 20 pages per philosopher. And so in that way, you get a very I do enjoy, maybe it's the business in me. One of the things I've learned, I just talked to someone about having a seat at the table and what you talk about. When you have a seat at the table and you're delivering information and you're trying to influence and persuade and move things, you need to know everything in as much detail as possible, but you can't, what you, one of the things I want to do, I need to write that down too, is part of what being an orator, right? I'm gonna write this on the left side of the book. Be an orator. Public speaking, influence, communicating. You can't go. Not that you can't. You can. You can. I presented at a lot of meetings. I presented in front of varying levels, frontline leaders, all the way up to the C-suite. Right. The information that you deliver as you go higher in rank has to be more broad. The more granular you get, the deeper you get, you lose the audience. And when you lose the audience, well, then you lose the power of persuasion and influence. And whatever it is you were looking to accomplish is not going to get accomplished. That's just the way it works. That's just the way it works. And so, in that way, I enjoy books like this because I understand the power of being able to deliver a message succinctly. I understand the power of being able to deliver a message broadly, but have enough meat on the bone that it is accepted in a way that gets the job done. What is my goal? What is my intent? I talked about that with my wife a lot this week because she had this was and if I haven't said it already, I wrote this down in my book. I have a lot of notes for today. I don't know that we're going to get through all of them. We talked about yesterday. Like that's going to get me at least 45 minutes here. I could probably speak for 3 hours about what I wrote down. Highly, highly, highly emotional week for me. I'll get into why in a moment. Highly emotional week. Highly. And the emotion I had this week was mostly positive. Like 99% of it. It was a sensationally phenomenal, stupendous, glorious, God and love filled week. And I'll get into why. I mean, when you hear why, and if you followed any of the streams so far, I can tell you right now at the very baseline, I had birthdays this week. My two babies, right? My daughter, my son. Uh, I mean, right there, boom. What more do I need to say? But there were other things that happened. But speaking of highly emotional, and being able to ensure you're clear and concise and you understand what your goals and objectives are. One of my and one of the things about self-improvement for me, as we're reflecting and as we start to look at the impact it's having on us, then we have to look at the impact we have on the world. One of the things I speak regularly about that I'm learning that I think I used to do, oh shit, that little thing down here scared the shit out of me. My book popping up like that. Yo, I'm telling you, the sense is heightened. And you might laugh at that. That the sense is heightened. And when the sense is heightened, and I get a sense that something's different in my environment, that's fear, right? There's a book that I think The Power of the Subconscious Mind. They said there's really only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of sound, right? And if you sense something or think about any of those two things, that's a natural fear more so than if and it's you're probably like Jeff. I have all these fears. I hate snakes. Yeah, you taught yourself that. You may not want to agree and align. I'm gonna digress. For fear of, I'll go off on a tangent and lose my point. Time check, real quick. 4:35. We're gonna set a timer. Ooh, set a timer for 5 a.m. We're probably gonna go longer, but I want to set a boundary. Right? Boundaries are important. Clear and concise. Because, ooh, ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the Do You Rules live experience. It's Saturday. We're ending the week. We're still hyped. We're still energized. We're still flowing. We're still blessed. And even if the week was emotionally low, we're still blessed. Even if I ran into a couple of walls and obstacles, we're still blessed. And think about it like this: what I wanted to express about emotions. These great loving weeks can't happen every week, because then when it happens, and it can't happen every day because then when it happens, it takes away from the power of it. I got to come back. Think about this, right? There's a reality to this too that I think we need to appreciate, and I think we learn. When we have those weeks where everything is like, oh, it really probably, it could always be better, but the way it could always be worse, it could always be better. But when you push and strive for a level of greatness in life, and you say, "Man, I just had a wonderful week, great experience with my family, my inner circle. I'm watching life evolve in all these ways." You embrace it, you love it, you stay in the moment. But the way that you hit a roadblock and it hurts because of the fear, it's really hard and heavy. When you have massive rushes of love for an extended period of time, that can be overwhelming too. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too shallow. Maybe I'm too dense. But if you experience life the way I experience life, if you're on the self improvement journey and you can feel what I feel, then it's like a rush, right? That high, you got to come back down and kind of have a baseline week. And that's also what I'm looking more forward to is I prepare myself to be emotionally, physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually prepared for weeks I need to be prepared for that are going to be high. I'm certainly prepared for the low, and then we live in the middle. We live in the middle. So as I was talking about, I it was an emotional week for me too, and that my wife went through a lot of things that she needed my help with, which is great. I want to be there to help. But part of what I said to her, which can help with the emotional experiences, and back to what I was talking about from an orator perspective, and as I reflect on my performance this week during my live streams and during my recorded sessions and during my posts on social media, what is my goal? What is my objective? What is the message I'm looking to deliver? So when we speak, it's not to necessarily speak less or speak more, or of course there is a balance. But if you're going to speak less, that's powerful. That's a message too. Sometimes someone might say, "Hey, I was looking for you to respond. You didn't respond." That was a response. Sometimes no response is a response. And if you can't hear me when I don't respond, then maybe you got to listen. Sometimes you got to speak until you're heard. And sometimes you got to speak and speak and speak and speak. But as you're speaking, be conscious of your message, be conscious of your delivery, be conscious of your methodology, be conscious of your audience, be conscious of what you're looking to accomplish. Because if you're not, then you run the risk of being like scrambled eggs, right? And if you think about scrambled eggs, it's scrambled. It's all over the place. Whereas it's funny, my children taught me this. my son and my daughter, and without realizing it, they said this to me in different days on different times. What's the difference between an egghead, and maybe because they call me egg affectionately, but when an egg is boiled, it hardens. So when it's put under pressure and in the heat, it hardens. So the environment dictates if you're going to be soft or hard, and depending on which one you need to be, because sometimes you got to be soft, sometimes you got to harden. Understanding that in the rhythms and patterns and flows and habits, because that's what we are, right? Be succinct, be concise, be disciplined with, like, discipline on top of doing what you said you were going to do. Do you have the discipline to do what's right in the moment? Do you have the discipline to say what needs to be said? Do you have the discipline to follow through however it is required to follow through? Sometimes less is required to follow through, sometimes more is required to follow through. What isn't required or what won't be a factor of success is not following through, stopping, quitting. There's so many ways. There's so many ways that we could quit on something. Not following through, not understanding what you're trying to say, not being concise, not having intentionality on all levels. What is your intentionality when you speak? I talk about that so regularly with folks. Your words are so impactful. And if you're lazy with your words, the way you're lazy with your body, the way you're lazy with your life, you're going to give lazy results. And ultimately, when it comes down to you being able to have an impact, you're so used to being lazy, you'll miss the moment. And then because you're so lazy and because you're not conscious of what you're doing, you're in a rhythm and a pattern of laziness, and you miss a moment, you can crush someone accidentally, on purpose, intentionally. Because to me, if you haven't learned to be conscious and deliberate and disciplined enough to not be lazy in the moments, then you don't really care. The way you don't care about yourself is the way you don't care about the person you're having a moment with. And so the way that you're crushing your soul and your spirit is the way you could do that to somebody else. That's why these things are so important. That's why the evolution and the growth of spirituality and tuning into yourself, mind, body, spirit, tapping in and understanding unity and harmony and consciousness and God and spirit and universe and love is so important, because if not, then you're selfish. It's all if it's not just you, it's all. But you are required for all, and all is required for you. So in that way, the synchronicity of life, the power to be impactful in life, is the power to be the most actualized and realized and disciplined and loved and harmonious version of you, so that when you have an opportunity to make an impact, that's why God is so important to me, if God is all. You have a responsibility, I believe, to Creator and God and universe as all, because it's all is in you and you are in all, to present yourself in the best possible way. So when life calls on you, you can deliver for life, because life is bigger than you. And in that way, life will return to you and you can feel better about your life. But if you're walking around with lazy habits, lazy demeanor, a lazy overall aura and energy and essence, and being a lazy godlike creature, then you're delivering laziness back to the world, and shame on you. That's selfish to me. I digress because I'm going to get tangential. But I feel very passionate if you haven't been able to learn about that. Let me go excuse myself for a moment. Be right back. Excuse me. Bear with me here again as I'm continuing to feel a little bit sick. I guess these things are going to happen. Now, I talk about the laziness of life and the impact people have. And then I think back to my children, and somebody could say something that could really alter their lives. And my daughter and I, again, had a conversation yesterday about, she came to me and, hey, I was trying to express to someone about my plan B, and I was talking to someone who means a lot to me. I'm not going to reveal titles or whatever. And I expressed how I just want to have a plan B. And that person was like, yeah, plan Bs are important. You always got to have a plan B just in case. I don't do plan Bs. I've learned not to do plan Bs. If you're on a plan B, it's because you quit plan A. If you're thinking about plan B, you're taking energy away from plan A. If you're focused on plan B, then you're less focused on plan A. And like everything else, the mind, the way that you can't multitask is the way you can't really have two goals. Your mind is like, pick one. And every time you go and deviate one for the other, then you're starting to accept in yourself that you're a quitter. You're starting to accept in yourself that you can fail. It's not to say that there won't be obstacles and failure along the way, but you're accepting that plan A will not suffice, which means that if there's more than one plan, then more than one goal, then by logic, you're going to be unsuccessful because right away, you don't even know what you really want to do. You're already split. Oh, I want to be a teacher, but in case I'll be a firefighter. No, you can't be, and then they're totally different paths. You're not even, it's like, okay, my son wants to be a soccer player. Go be a soccer player. Now, in and along the path, you might want him just being a soccer coach or a soccer tutor or open up a gazillion soccer institutions along the way. But it's the same path because there is a reality. One out of like 700 people or 7,000 people or maybe 7 million people make it. I don't know what the math is. It's very hard. It's not to suggest it isn't hard. It's not to suggest that the odds aren't against you. But if you think the odds are against you already because it's hard, when you start saying, well, I'll fall back to plan B if everything, now the odds exponentially are greater. There is no plan B. There is no second option. There is no other thing to do. If you're focused and driven on something you love, you go do it. And you only do that. Period, full stop. And I can tell you from experience, having at least two things that I can think of that I loved to do and I stopped. What that does to you as far as regret, pain, suffering, and the reality that I can't get that back now. So in that same way that they say that the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I would have done something more in my life that I loved, along the way that you quit things you love, you realize before you go, there's a breaking point where you can't go back to that love and that passion and that dream. I'll use a very simple before I get into reflection. As someone who loves sports, at 43, I'm 43, right? I think I'm 43. Yeah, 43. Sports are over for me. There is no professional sport I could play. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. That hurts. That hurts. I never want to live like that again. And in the same way, I believe that when we start to promote the idea you should have a plan B, it's because you failed. You didn't find something else to make your plan A, and now you're giving somebody else. See what I'm talking about? See what I'm talking about with people? Instead of realizing and coming to consciousness that, damn, I know what it was like to pursue a passion. I didn't get it. And I wound up defaulting into like a lot of folks talk about, oh man, we're in this 9-to-5 trap and everybody, life has pushed us down and they just want to keep us like sheep. But you're the sheep. Do you have no accountability and realization and actualization to say, oh man, I got myself here? We talked about that this week. When is it going to be your fault? So it's your fault that you are where you are. It's your fault you had a B and a C and a D and an E and you did none of them. And then if you did settle, because that's what it is, you settled on something and you found yourself in a space where, oh, this is not the life I really wanted, you're going to tell somebody, oh yeah, don't chase your dreams because you're going to be like me and find yourself in a space where you don't really want to be and that's okay. No, that is unacceptable to me. If you know that you're not where you want to be with your life and you can't tell someone, yo, look at me. I did some things that I wanted to do. I didn't achieve them. At some point, I stopped realizing what, that's a realization too. Let's just be real. You stop thinking about what to do. The reason you find yourself stuck and in patterns of not producing the outcomes you want is because not only did you not know or did you fail at what you wanted to do for plan A, you never found a new plan A. So for me, it's this. If you decide plan A is no longer plan A, then there's a new plan A. There's no B, C, D. It's plan A, A1 or A2 from the perspective of, I thought this was what I was going to do. And I talked about that here, right? I wrote down some notes that might make sense of this. But I said I was going here. I do that until I come to the realization that I got everything I wanted, or I wake up and I say, ooh, this is not what I was supposed to be doing. So now it's a new plan A. And if you aren't where you want to be and you haven't achieved a level of actualization with your life, then you shouldn't be giving anybody advice. I know that sounds wrong, but I feel strongly about that. I don't I talked about this in one of my videos that's coming up. The people you surround yourself with, complainers, victims, quitters, faithless people, gossipers. I don't want nobody like that in my life, because all you're gonna do is infect me with what you haven't done. I don't. I want to know what you haven't done, and have the integrity and the discipline and the love and the virtuousness to say, if you do what I did, you're gonna wind up like me. It's not to say that you're wrong or that you're a bad person, you're terrible, but don't push anybody into a situation where they're not getting out of life what they should get out of life because you haven't gotten what you wanted out of life. That's not my fault. I don't want none of that shit around me. Take it away. Go somewhere else. I don't want to see it, breathe it. I don't want to hear it. And this is why I'm so. It's funny that I believe I'm a very social person who's become antisocial. I love the stage, but I also like my silence. I don't mind if I only speak to myself for the rest of my life. I find more security and love and success in keeping myself tight, alone. We talked about privacy. We haven't gotten to privacy in the detail I want to. We haven't gotten to solitude in the way that I want to. We haven't gotten to the peace of self and God and being secure with yourself that I want to. But I find that, and I'm gonna read something in this book that I'm gonna go through the best thing I've read, and the book says it, and I don't want to give it away, but I'll just close it in this way because I got tangential, right? And we're at 4:50 a.m. and we're certainly gonna go past 5. I think I'm pretty confident we are. Shame on you if you haven't come to the realization that you severely lack in life. And the lack that you have is less about material and money and success on paper. It's love with yourself. That you haven't, that you, if you're lazy with yourself in any way, and I'm lazy still in a lot of ways, right? I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect. But the reason why we do the self-improvement thing is because we lock in on a set of principles, and I'm very principled and determined and disciplined and focused and aligned with who I say I'm going to be. And some days I'm stubborn, and some days I'm competitive for no reason, and some days I'm dismissive, and some days I can be like I feel like a tyrant. But it's all part of me trying to figure out the pendulum swings and being centered, right? And there's just a reality that I have to learn to accept. There's some qualities in me, whether they were taught to me, learned to me, whether I can break them or reprogram them, that may sort of be my DNA and my code at my default level. Like being in IT is good that way. What is your basic code? Maybe I have a little bit of an attitude, and maybe I have a temper, and that's okay. I need to work with that. However, closing this loop in this point, that you don't actually take the time to work on yourself, to love yourself for all you are, to realize that you are you for you and no one else can be you. And so therefore, you really shouldn't be telling anyone what they should be doing. You could go back. I don't know. Maybe I've learned this over the evolution of my journey on the Do You rules. I don't ever really tell you what to do. I offer you a possibility. I offer you a framework based on what I've experienced that has driven me towards a level of love. I try not to share anything that doesn't promote self-love and God. I don't tell you what to do. Who am I to tell you what to do? I don't know what you should do. However, I would strongly suggest that if you're looking to love yourself and improve yourself and move towards a path, this is what I found, and I offer you that. And in the way that I tell you what I offered that helps me find love, I can tell you why from the perspective of if I don't, I start to hate myself. I start to be lazy. I start to lack ambition. I start to procrastinate. I start to not do what I say I was going to do. I start to become sedentary. I start to crave a state of inertia and comfort and just a mentality to quit life. I don't want that for nobody. If that winds up being me, because God forbid, whatever happens, there's some things I can't predict. Life is life that way. I don't ever want to fall into that, but it's possible. Something could happen to me tomorrow that changes everything about my life, and I can't get over it. That's a reality. It's a fear, right? That's fear for me too. That I could do all this, man. I'm getting like anxious and And I'm starting to get like goosebumps and nervousness because part of the evolution of thinking about all the possibilities is you sometimes find yourself thinking about the negative possibilities. Like, what if, God forbid, when you talk about loss, what could you lose? Forget the job, right? Forget. I talked about it the other day, the job and the money. Like, ooh, I don't even want to say it on the mic, but there's things that I could lose that people have lost, and I've seen people lose that are really, you don't want that in your life. And anyone who is really tight and a parent and a husband or a significant other, I don't even have to say what it is that you could lose that would be devastating. I pray that life doesn't devastate me in that way. And I honestly don't know if I was what I would do. And so in that way, while I have my sanity, someone told me about a book, The Gift of Fear or The Protection of Fear. And I think it's iterative in that way. And I think part of it was how to stay sane, define sanity, right? But if I was to go insane, hopefully I've done enough to push somebody in a direction that doesn't take them down with me. And I close it with that. I hate to think of it that way. But if you're down and you're out, why you got to pull people down and out with you? Keep that to yourself. All right. All right. All right. It's Reflection Saturday. Why am I singing on the mic and I can't sing? I don't know. It's cold again. It's cold again. I will say, I guess for the sake of transparency, part of what I find powerful, right? I have 116 hours. I'm on pace for something like 15 or 1600 hours of self improvement. These are the numbers of where we're at, right? Prayer and meditation, strength training, running, all these things. This is what I'm putting in. You don't have to believe me. That's all right. I believe myself and I like what's happening. The rough results. Imagine this. I think this is important. I'm on live stream 25. I said I would do 24 this year. I think I have more episodes than this now. I think I'm at like 12 or 13. I got to update this. I'm going to sneeze in a moment. Hold on. Oh, those suck. All right. I've posted 40 reels. I've gone 13 stories in, etc., etc., etc. I'm halfway through book 2. I think I'm going to sneeze again, but yep, give me a second. Ebbs and flows in life, like that can make me want to cut the stream off. Like that's the emotion I get. Like fuck you. I hate sneezing and blowing my nose, especially on the microphone live. Fuck it. I suck. I'm quitting. Right? Life works like that. Life works like that. And I find that when you go through and acknowledge, I could just quit and want to punch the screen and rip the camera off the wall. And you don't, you got to win. That's a win for you. That's a win. My hands are really cold. So there's a lot of things I wanted to consider for this. One is I'm ahead of schedule. And you can be ahead of schedule in a way that's good, and you can be ahead of schedule in a way that is, and I don't want to use the word good, productive. If we're measuring success, because we're using this to measure success, right? I'm ahead of target with my goal of 1250, but not by a lot. There's a lot that could happen that would stop momentum. But certainly we've talked about momentum, and you want to keep momentum where applicable. So if we're looking towards, and if you're on a 100-hour journey, right? The 100-hour journey towards self-improvement is a lot. If you put in an hour a day, that's 365, right? You cut that in half. Half of 300 is 150. 65 is what? 32 and a half. So if every other day you put in an hour, you do 132 and a half hours for the year. So you could put in you could put in an hour every other day and exceed 100 hours of work on yourself. Why is that significant and important? Well, because if you want to put in 100 hours, that's how you get to 100 hours. Now think of it this way. Who's more successful? If I said I'm going to put in 100 hours for the year, I'm at 116 for the month. It's day 25. If I said I'm going to put in 100 hours for the year and I put in an hour every other day, the way that if I said I would do 24 live streams, oh, there goes my timer. Let's set a timer for 5:20 a.m. I might go longer than that even. I like the timers. If you haven't learned, I like timers. Timers keep me honest. I gotta go blow my nose again. Excuse me. All right. Timers keep me honest. I feel like I can do a show on timers. Timers are super powerful. Timers help me relax. You know, if I say I'm gonna put in an hour, set a timer for an hour, I don't have to think about the hour. I just I can flow. I don't have to worry about, oh, how much time. I just flow. Right? You just flow. Anything in a flow state is good. Back to my question to consider. If I said I would put in 100 hours of self improvement for the year and I put in an hour every other day, and someone else put in an hour, and it's like me, 116 for the month, and I said I would do 24 live streams, and here I'm at 25. If I stop today, but at the end of the year, I was like, yo, what did you do this year? Man, I put out 25 live streams. I said I would do 24. I said I would do 100 hours. I did 116. I'm dope. Would you feel that way if you quit today? No, you wouldn't. No, you would not. Because you would have 25 days of success and then you just crashed and burned. You just crashed and burned. So when we talk about consistency and discipline and executing on tasks and having rhythms and patterns and staying committed to a schedule, schedules are important. I could do an episode on schedules. I should do an episode on schedules at some point. But part of what I offer you is the framework. I'm measuring because I guess it helps me understand. It does keep me inspired. I'm trying to offer possibilities. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you should do, but I don't know if this helps. It helps me. If I stop today, I'm successful in that I've exceeded my goal, but I could also argue that my goal was too light. I should have had a larger goal. You also start the question, if I'm already ahead of target, is it beneficial? Is it working? I'm measuring. Is it I gotta go blow my nose again. I'm so sorry. I'm back. This is the Do You Rules live experience. It's 5:02 a.m. We've been on the mic for a little while, and I feel phenomenal about life. I hope you do too. So who would be more successful? Well, right? It's how I talk about the day with data. I could frame this very easily. At the end of the year, the reality is now that I've exceeded expectations, now I have to ask myself, because this is exceeding, do I do 365 live streams? I think I've committed softly. I keep saying I think to 100. So I'm a quarter of the way there. If I get to 100, that's 100 days in. I think that's by April 1st. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll be in spring, I think, by then. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. What does it all mean? I don't know. We talked about that the other day. I think it does mean I love how this orange bar is getting bigger and these green bars are getting smaller and these minuses. Like this also too, this does things for the minds. It stimulates you. It helps you know you're on target and you're on task. And why not? If we're gonna go to 100 hours, 1,000 hours, a gazillion hours of self improvement, why not? You want to be mindful of what you're accomplishing. Okay, give me a second. Actually, I'm gonna do a bathroom break too because I know I'm gonna be here for at least 15 more minutes. Give me about 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Oh, I'm back. I'm back, my beautiful do you rulers, my beautiful people of life. I really do hope you're doing well. I do sincerely. And I'll always say, if for at nothing for no other reason than when you're doing well, you're less risk to me and my well being, right? The greater the world is doing collectively, the greater or the lesser the risk we are to ourselves. That is the beauty to me of self improvement. If you love yourself, you're less likely to say things like you should have a plan B, right? Because you're all in on your plan A too. Speaking of which, that's going to be the next episode that I write. There is no plan B. So important to me. So important. Let's go into a little deeper reflection. At some point, I think what I'll do is adding to, I talked about what's the biggest thing I would take back? What is the biggest gift? I'll also go through the best thing I've read. And this jarred me as I was reading yesterday because I read something that was dope. And I hope this makes it to whoever it has to make it to. Because if you're like me, or at least consider words to be what they could be for me, and you hear these words, they're going to be powerful. They're going to be powerful. So part of what we talked about yesterday, I think is worth reflecting on. Are you learning how you work? So if you're 25 days in, or whatever you're in, 25 minutes in, 25 seconds in, are you learning how you work? Are you feeling any changes emotionally, physically, psychologically, and spiritually? That's important because if you don't know how you work, at this point, stepping away is annoying the shit out of me. I'm sorry. Yep. 1 second. In my estimation, on the self improvement path, 25 days in is a good measure for what's working. Are you feeling any changes? Where are you? What journey are you on? Are you waking up earlier? Are you praying more? Are you running? Are you lifting? Are you reading? Are you writing? Are you in a business endeavor? Are you studying for a degree? Are you going back to school? Are you asking for a promotion? Are you working on your relationship? There's so many things you could be improving on. So many things you. That's another thing I need to see. Things hit me right. So many things you could be working on, and one of the reasons I pulled up the spreadsheet is because when you can see the tangible time effort, because time is relative in that way, then you can start to ask yourself, am I feeling any changes? And in that way, when you start to ask yourself, are you learning how you work? I think we can go deeper into that another day. Have you started to ask yourself, what is working well? What's working well? What are you doing? What are we doing that continues to excite us? What are we doing that continues to inspire us? What are we doing that continues to improve us? What are we doing that is working well? It's a good question to ask ourselves. Of all the things that are working well, are there some things that are working better than expected? That's a question to ask. Is there anything you're doing where you said, all right, I'm going to read because I want to educate myself? I start with self-help books, self-health books. Maybe I get into philosophy. Maybe I get into neurosciences. Maybe I get into biographies. Maybe I get into history. I don't know. But is it work? Now that you're doing that, did you find, oh, wow, I liked this better? If you were getting up at 5, or you switched to get up at 4, switched to getting up at 4 to switch to get up at 5. If you were running in the morning or running at night, have you made any adjustments? Has anything worked out better than you expected it to work? If it has, highlight that, emphasize that, leverage it to continue to move you forward. In that way, is there anything that is not working well? Now, if it isn't working well, is it because it's harder than you expected and you just kind of got to sort of push through? Fine. How do we define not working well? I would suggest this. If it doesn't make you feel good about your life as far as I want to move towards love and this is not moving me towards love. Not like I'm lifting weights and it hurts or I'm running and I'm tired. I should stop. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But if you find yourself doing some things that are putting you in physical pain, I'll be back. Or you find yourself doing some things that are putting you in emotional pain or spiritual pain, don't do it. And it might be some things that you thought were going to work well that aren't working well. We talk about what we do for reflection. What's working, repeat it. What's not working, delete it. Are you finding yourself more comfortable with yourself? What does that mean? Are you happier? Are you more loved? Why? Take note of these things. Understand what's happening. Are you familiar with and understand the concept that is built around unity and harmony to in order to distinguish the experience of self? Have you considered what self is? Have you considered the ego, the id, the ego, the conscious, the subconscious, the superconscious, right? What will be referred to as I talked about the Holy Trinity, God, God, Son, and the Holy Spirit. They're said in a lot of different ways, but have you gone through the experience yet? And I think that this happens. I hate the word organically, but I think the experience reveals itself as you're going on any journey, because anything that's hard and requires you to work on yourself, I believe you find that you have a physical body, you have a mind that thinks thoughts, and then you have an emotional spirit, or at least a spirit, I should say, that drives you. Where are you with that? Are you separating? I believe before you harmonize it and you unify it, you got to be able to separate and distinguish. What is my body telling me? What is my mind telling me? What is my spirit and God telling me? All these things eventually have to work succinctly. All these things eventually have to come together, I believe, in my experience. If you look at some of the greatest mystics and philosophers and impactors of the world, it's somewhat commonplace to see that they've achieved this harmony and this unity. Because as I referenced before, it's not just about you. It is all. All is God. God is all. All is you. You are all. So when you impact you, you are impacting all. And then you allow yourself to be impacted by all. Imagine that. That you're looking for something and you're trying to improve and you're trying to excel and you're trying to exceed and you're on your plan A and you're trying to believe and you're trying to love. And you have to release what you believe, release who you are in order to receive it back. Right? Think about it. So that's part of the experience and the starting to distinguish the self, right? Okay. Can you see or feel the impact? What is the impact? If you're on a physical journey for weight loss, 25 days in is reasonable to think if you've been consistent, you're starting to see that impact. So when I talk about see or feel the impact, there's that obviousness, and we like to stick to ourselves. So we only look to ourselves to see if we're improving. And why not? Because that's the first sort of barometer of change. Where am I? Where am I? It's all about I, right? I is the ego. That's fine. That's fine. The ego is important. I am important. I am is the greatest two words ever given to you, by the way. I am who I say I am. That's why I say that. And everything I say is important because I am who I say I am. So, in that way, can you see or feel the difference in you? Can you see any physical difference if you're working on something physical? Can you see any spiritual difference? Can you see and are you starting to align with the internal view? Are you seeing anything different in your relationship with God if you're going that way? Are you seeing anything different in your extra, like, are you even seeing things differently? Like when you walk outside into the reality and the experience of life, are you seeing things differently? Are you seeing people differently? Are you seeing your profession different? All these things, the relationships you're involved in to life, the life relationship you have to life and the life relationship life has to you, are you seeing any different? Are you feeling an impact? Are you feeling an impact? Are you waking up feeling a little more glorious, right? Are you feeling like your fortunes are changing? If you consider the law of attraction, and I always talk about God in search of itself. So if you're raising your energy vibration and you're feeling good, are you sensing that the reciprocal nature of the universe and God and how it works, that what you give out is returned to you? I just sort of talked about that rather briefly or intimated it. Can you feel the impact? Can you feel how people are responding to you differently? 25 days in is it's not a lot of time, but it's a lot of time, right? What are you noticing? I read something the other day, or I was watching something today that talks about nature. Are you getting outside more in nature? If you're getting outside more in nature, consider this, right? I go out for my runs. I don't use headphones. If you hear birds singing and chirping are an indication of happiness in that the birds are not at threat. So if the birds are not at threat because there's no danger around, they release and harmonize positive flow and vibration and happiness into the area. And if you're running by singing birds, another reason to not run with headphones, right? You're missing all this. If you consider that you're always blocking yourself off from the power of the universe around you, like embrace the world. Don't be distracted all the time. Don't be distracted all the time. Pay attention to what's happening in you and then pay attention to what's happening around you. So when birds release that positive high vibrational energy of happiness into the air because they're not threatened and they're in peace and they're living together and loving together, and your subconscious picks that up, your subconscious picks up the happiness. And so now in that way, when you are exposed to happiness and your subconscious interprets the happiness and knows that there's no threat or danger, how do you think you feel? I'm asking, are you recognizing these things, right? One of the last things I wrote down, and I wrote down other things, but I'm going to avoid some of them for the sake of the way the conversation is flowing, and my time is going to go off in a couple of minutes, and I do want to do a couple of other things. What is sticking out to you? What is sticking out to you? 25 days in, have you had any epiphanies? Have you had any revelations? Have you had any experiences? I'll say the other day, I've been meditating now and praying in the way that I meditate and pray for at least the last 4 years. And I'd say maybe a half dozen times I've had this experience where I've totally lost myself and I almost forgot that, excuse me, I've almost lost sight of my physical being. And I can't explain it other than I feel like I'm falling asleep in a way, but I know I'm not falling asleep. Maybe I'm falling deeper into consciousness. And it's an amazing experience. And it sticks out to me because every time it happens, I've realized I've gotten deeper and deeper into it before I realize it's happening. You get what I'm trying to say? So when I'm realizing that, oh shit, I'm having an experience, I lose the experience because now the assholeness in me and the immaturity of spirituality and the immaturity still of having a long way to go is that in order for me to get there, I fully release. So if I fully release and I'm fully embracing and I'm fully letting go and I'm opening myself up to the possibility of God and universe and everything that I think that I think, whether you believe it or not, this is what I believe. And I fall into that moment and that experience, all of a sudden I start to have what I believe is a deep spiritual experience, a deep connection into the essence, my energy. There goes my timer. I'm just gonna not set another timer. I'm gonna stop here soon whenever I feel like I'm gonna stop. Probably another 5-10 minutes. But I'm there, and it feels magnanimous. It is almost indescribable in words. And certainly, if I were to say that I'm looking for a spiritual experience that gives me a level of euphoria and nirvana and just pure bliss, beauty of love, that is it. And as quick as I experience it, in the same way, I can't even tell you how long I was in that state. Because when I'm in that state, I'm fully released. But I do know that when I start to acknowledge, oh shit, it's happening, I lose it. I lose it, right? I can't force it. Naturally, I say to myself, I'd rather be in that state every time. I hate, language is important. I'm gonna do an episode on language again soon. So I don't want to say I wish. I know that I can do that more often. I have to be patient. I have to give time, and I have to let it sort of happen. But that stuck out to me. Why wouldn't it stick out to you? Is there anything that stuck out to you? Another thing that stuck out to me too, as I reflect, I was running yesterday, and I put on my hat and my gloves, and I put on an even I have a thicker set of gloves that I don't typically use because I can't. It's not phone friendly, so I can't if I need to stop my app when I'm running. I can't stop it, or I use it to open my garage. I got to take the glove off and I get cold. It's irritating. So I use those gloves. I reference that to say I used them because it was cold. I keep telling you, it's freezing cold outside. So I'm running. Got my Rocky Balboa theme. I'm just flowing. I'm flowing and I'm going and I'm going. I was just coming up a hill and I was enjoying all the beauty of life and the darkness and the ambiance and the experience. And like I just told you, I was immersed in my meditation and in my connection to God. I was immersed in my run, and that gets dangerous because I mean I'll get jarred out of it if a car's coming, but I lose everything. It's just me. I'm just like boom, boom. Right, I'm running, I'm flowing, I'm flowing. I'm feeling good about life. And so as I'm going, I guess my subconscious or my conscious picked up an energy vibe. There was a person coming my way, another person running. And that'll startle you. It brings you out like, oh shit, I sense it. I sense it. I'm connected. I think I'm connected. That's the best way I can explain it. I'm connected to my environment that when there's a change in the environment, my senses pick it up. The way I got scared to death when I saw the page kind of light up at the bottom. I believe that's part of the experience. So anyway, I got my thick gloves on. I got my hat and my hood. It's funny, that hat is really good. I'm sweating. So I'm freezing everywhere else except my egghead because I could feel the sweat starting to come down. And I see this dude running at me, right? And it's exciting because, yay, somebody else is outside running. I'm not that crazy. Yo, dude ran by me. Like, I felt like he was, like, it was just like a movie scene and it was dark. It's dark. It's pitch black outside, right? 5 o'clock in the morning. But he had it, like, it was like the sun and the light was all around him. And he was in a tank top with little tiny shorts on, with a little headband on and his headphones. Loving life. Loving life. And I said good morning. He said good morning. And I felt the energy of him running by me and the beauty and the essence of the light and the love that he felt. And I was cold as fuck thinking, damn, this dude is in shorts. And it's like 10 degrees. 10 degrees. And he, was unbothered. Was unbothered. What that sticks out? That's the power of life of I decided it's cold. I'm gonna gear up. He decided it's cold. He's gonna put on shorts and his tank top because he's running outside and he feels great about life. Whatever floats you, dog. Whatever floats you. So that stuck out to me. I'll get into really quickly the best thing that the biggest gift, the biggest take back, and the best thing I read. Let me cleanse myself before I do that one more time. And then hopefully I can end this on a positive note for all of us. Look at the chat real quick. Nobody's there, but that's all good. We're flowing. It's the Do You Rules live experience. All right. 5:25 a.m. approximately. Because there's some seconds there. 5:25 and 34, 35, 36 seconds. It's Saturday. We're reflecting. Day 25 of the Do You Rules live experience. I love this. I love myself. I love God and universe. And I hope you feel the same way. In whatever order, in whatever love you want to love. I just hope and pray that love and happiness and joy and ease and health are afforded you because it is a beautiful life and it's worth living. It's worth living to the extent that you can live it. The biggest take back, the biggest take back for me for the week is associated partly also with the biggest gift, which is that because it's birthday week, a lot of cake eating. Shit, I'm gonna sneeze soon again. Damn it. 1 second. My apologies again for the constant interruption. It's irritating to me. It's highly irritating. And I try to remove those sorts of feelings and words out of my mouth because I want to continue to believe I'm healed and harmonious and healthy because I do believe it. But when you feel this way, it sucks and it ruins your flow. So the biggest take back with birthdays being this week, I have a cheat day. And I'll cheat. I talk about 80/20. I'll indulge sometimes with something during the week, and a lot of it is emotional. I'll be honest, as far as my experience, the more emotional I get, sometimes I gravitate towards chocolate or whatever's there. I do my best to keep my pantry clear of that, so I can, it's less of a possibility. Jesus Christ! So sorry. I know that sounds disgusting, but I went from a cheat day because it made me feel disgusting. Eating disgusting all day. I don't want to, and however you define disgusting. It made me feel terrible the next day, and I feel terrible throughout the day. The healthier I eat, the more difficult it is for me to eat unhealthy. So my biggest take back is with this being birthday week, a lot of foods I wouldn't normally eat, a lot of cake, ice cream, and then it culminated with yesterday. I had McDonald's. Ugh, just disgusting. The biggest gift, man, birthdays, birthdays, family time, the experience of love. Hold on. All right. So if I reflect back on my week, on Monday, I ordered a new pair of glasses. I got the Meta glasses. That was fun and exciting. Tuesday was my daughter, Gorgita, my gorgeous. It's her birthday. Wednesday was Little G's birthday. Thursday, I got great news about bonuses and increases. And then Friday was sort of a dud because there was no great new excitement. And here I am Saturday, right? But that's an emotionally high week. And so the gift for me was this. It wasn't just that these events occurred, it's that I was present enough to fully indulge and embrace moments as a father, a husband, a professional. Sometimes these highly emotional, positive events, because if you practice laziness and constant friction and conflict, they can turn into, listen, nothing near perfection in 25 years of my wife. Nothing near perfection in 17 years of marriage. Nothing near perfection in 15 years as a father to my daughter, 12 years as a father to my son, 27 combined years of parenting when you think about it and put it in perspective. There were some birthdays that were, you talk about a take back, right? because I wasn't prepared emotionally. I wasn't prepared psychologically. I wasn't mature enough in all these areas and aspects to be present, to be present. So the biggest gift is not just it's we're healthy, we're happy, a lot of laughs, a lot of hugs, even some cries. The gifts are great. The physical gifts, giving them money, taking to the mall, cutting the cake. It was that I was present enough to fully embrace what was happening in a way that my consciousness can record that for me, and it be a moment that I can replay over and over and over, even subconsciously, in a way that says, this is how we want to feel about life as often as possible. So if I could offer you that in that way, that the experiences of being present is the ability to consciously be able to dictate or at least do your best to control how you're going to feel about things. Your subconscious picks that up and starts to understand this is how you want to feel about things. And more often than not, you raise your vibration of highness towards it's not always this emotionally high, it's always not this emotionally low, but my balance is pretty high. My balance is filled with gratitude. My balance is filled with joyousness. My balance is filled with love. My balance is filled with harmony. My balance is filled with unity. My balance is filled with collaborative focus towards discipline and intentionality and purpose, my why, my love, all those things. You can be centered with that. You can be centered with that. In the same way you can be uncentered, or I would still say you're still centered if you're in the other direction. It's just a matter of what kind of experience do you want, man? What kind of experience do you want? So one of the things I did and I learned part of the evolution of me trying to get better is as I'm reading, I keep sticky notes now. I keep a pen, and then I would do it differently. I would flag pages, right? And I would flag it by putting like a little mark on it, and then go back to review. But I found that inefficient, and I found that in my journey of I've read over at this point probably hundreds of books, and I can recall them. But sometimes I want to look for a moment in the book that was really captivating or really changed my mindset. Right, one more time. So in that way, and you talk about the evolution and putting forth effort and how what did I write down? I write down is it getting better? What sticks out? We're certainly reflecting. Oh, I lost my pen for here. Mother flower. Let me not get caught up in that. Oh, there it goes. The pen. What's working well? What's working better than expected? The reading for me, I know that sounds crazy. I never thought that I would enjoy reading this much. I never thought that I would enjoy reading this much. I also got to keep a pen with this book, and I keep a pen with my reading books, the way I keep chapstick in different locations, because otherwise, I'm not gonna walk around with a pen in my pocket. I like to strategically place things. So we're gonna talk about the environment one day, but I place things in areas that I have a chapstick in the car. I have a chapstick by my desk. I have a chapstick on my end table. I have and that's so I never really have to worry about carrying it around, and it's always there. Anyway, I'm going to read something to you all when we talk about greatest gift, the biggest take back, and I'll also start to share the greatest thing I read for the week. And hopefully I can find something like this every week. Check this out. This I feel like we can do an episode on this, man. We naturally care what people think of us. We don't want to seem too different, so we acquire the same tastes as everyone else. We accept what the crowd does, so the crowd will accept us. But in doing this, we weaken ourselves. We compromise, often without knowing it. We allow ourselves to be bought without even the benefit of getting paid for it. Think about those last two lines. In doing this, we weaken ourselves. We compromise often without knowing it. We allow ourselves to be bought without even the benefit of getting paid for it. I just wrote down to sum it up the way I interpreted it. When we compromise, we sell ourselves and usually short, as there is no profit for being inauthentic and true. There is no gain to not being you. To sell unknowingly is to be bought as a fraud. Consider those words, man. And maybe that's what we'll use to close and transition into tomorrow. We want to be accepted. And in our haste to ensure that we are socially accepted and that we don't stick out of the crowd and we fit into the crowd because somehow we believe the crowd is where it's at, we lose sight, possibly, of who we really are and how we can improve. And if that's at all a possibility for you, and you're considering breaking free from the crowd, what does that really mean to you? That's the self improvement journey. I don't know why everyone wouldn't work on self improvement. And somehow we could still create a crowd that way, a crowd of people who can possibly have discourse and conflict and disagreements in a way that yields growth, constructive criticism, empowerment, unity, harmony, togetherness. It's not to suggest that there shouldn't be a crowd or that we shouldn't want to be part of a crowd. It's to suggest that the crowd should be filled by everyone, as everyone, for everyone, in a way that anyone can be as they are. Otherwise, who are we really? And what is the crowd? What is being bought and what is being sold? Food for thought. As always, man, it's a beautiful day to be alive. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It's Saturday. We reflected. We closed the week. Tomorrow we start the week. And hopefully we can keep repeating weeks just like this, right? Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.